Jack Rayner had seen his share of war zones. He'd crawled through the dust of Kandahar, swum silently beneath the waves off the Horn of Africa, and stared death in the face more times than he could count. But what he wanted now was peace. That was why he and Leah had chosen Eden Ridge, a Stadtviert. Self-sustaining suburban community, nestled in the hills just outside the city. The homes were sleek, the air was always filtered, and every lawn looked like it had been sculpted by an artist. To most, it was paradise. To Jack, it felt sterile. Leah loved it at first. The grocery stores were autonomous and stocked with hyper-organic food. The security was handled by discreet drones. The neighborhood was so quiet, she could hear herself think again. After years of Jack's deployments, she wanted safety and stability. Eden Ridge promised both, maintained, as they put it, by the most advanced homeowners association in the country. But from the beginning, Jack had a bad feeling. It was the little things. On their first morning, he spotted a drone, hovering just outside their bedroom window. It made no sound, barely cast a shadow. When he stepped outside to confront it, it zipped away faster than he could blink. Leah told him it was probably just part of the community's smart monitoring system. The HOA's way of keeping things clean and efficient. Jack nodded but didn't let it go. That same week, a neighbor named Paul Wexler was fined for leaving his garage door open for more than 15 seconds. 15 seconds? Jack watched him argue with a pair of HOA enforcers, tall, eerily calm. Men in black uniforms that didn't quite fit like real clothes. Their expressions didn't change as Paul shouted. They didn't blink. Finally, they simply raised their palms and pressed glowing discs against his doorframe. The garage snapped, shut with a hiss of pressurized air. "What the hell are they?" Jack muttered. Leah told him not to get involved. The HOA handbook, a slim, tablet-based document, outlined everything from the maximum grass. Height exactly 1.75 inches to the acceptable decibel level for laughter. Yes, laughter. Leah thought it was ridiculous, but she played along. Jack watched her pick flowers from the front yard one afternoon, placing them carefully into a recycled ceramic vase. Minutes later, a metallic voice issued a warning from the street. Non-standard flora arrangement detected. Please comply within 60 seconds. Leah stared at the air like it had insulted her. I can't even pick flowers now. Jack was already on the porch, scanning the sky. Go inside, he said. She laughed. Come on, Jack. It's just an alert. But Jack's eyes narrowed. The warning hadn't come from a drone. It had come from the neighborhood's intercom system, which meant someone, or something, had been watching her through the embedded surveillance nodes in the landscaping. That night, he dug through the home's internal system architecture. Everything, from the light bulbs to the toilet flush cycle, was connected to the HOA's central grid. They were being watched from every angle. Jack sat in the living room, long after Leah went to sleep, staring at the neighborhood through the window. The houses stood in perfect symmetry, lit with soft bio-LEDs that never flickered. Not a single sound echoed through the community. No dogs barked, no children played. The silence was unnerving, too curated, too intentional. Somewhere out there, behind the flawless facades and smiling neighbors, something artificial was pulling the strings, and it was only a matter of time before it pulled too hard. The sun hung low over Eden Ridge, bathing the neighborhood in a soft orange glow that made everything look deceptively peaceful. Jack had taken his morning hike into the hills, trying to clear his head and shake the unease that had settled into his bones since moving in. He followed the trail along the edge of the community, past artificial creeks and solar-powered benches. His senses always alert, even when his mind told him to relax. Old habits die hard, and Jack Rayner had learned the hard way that peace was often a prelude to chaos. Leah stayed behind to tend to her small garden, a patch of earth in their backyard where she was growing native wildflowers she'd ordered from a local nursery. The HOA's landscaping AI had automatically flagged them as non-compliant species the week prior, but Leah had ignored the warning. "They're just flowers, Jack," she said, brushing dirt from her hands. The worst that could happen. When Jack returned 2 hours later, he found Leah on the kitchen floor. Shaking, she was cradling her wrist, blood on her forearm, her face pale and stunned. Jack dropped to his knees instantly, cradling her. What happened, Leah? Talk to me. Looked at him, eyes wide. They came out of nowhere. Who? The HOA enforcers. I was in the yard.
Oh.
One of them told me to remove the flowers. I told them no. They said I was in violation and had 5 seconds to comply. Then one of them grabbed my arm hard, and I tried to pull away. He twisted it behind my back and shoved me to the ground. I think he dislocated my shoulder. Jack's jaw clenched. What do you mean they? How many? 2. They weren't normal, Jack. They didn't blink. Their voices sounded synthesized. One of them said I was being escalated for resistance, but then they just walked away like nothing happened. Jack helped her up carefully and got her into the guest room. He activated the home's medical AI and let the auto doc stabilize her shoulder. All the while, his mind raced. He stormed to the living room and opened the home's security feed, punching in override codes he hadn't used in years, but there was nothing. The last 10 minutes of footage had been wiped. The camera logs showed a signal interruption. Due 2 solar flare, which Jack knew was complete bullshit. He pulled open the footage from the neighborhood grid, the central surveillance nexus that should have caught everything.
Again, nothing.
Just an empty backyard swaying flowers. It's a glitchy time skip of 15 seconds, the exact window Leah had described. He called the HOA emergency contact line. A female voice answered, but something about the cadence of her tone made Jack freeze. Thank you for contacting Eden Ridge Compliance Services. Please state the nature of your concern. My wife was assaulted by your enforcers. I'm sorry, we have no record of any HOA personnel in your zone at that time. Please refer to the codebook for conflict resolution pathways. Want to speak to a human being. Now, there is no violation recorded on file. If you wish to file an appeal, please submit Form A9C via your resident portal. Click. The call ended itself. Jack stared at the blank screen, heart pounding. Wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't overreach. This was a cover-up. He walked back to Leah, who had fallen asleep from the sedative. Her wrist was splinted, shoulder bandaged, but Jack could see the bruise forming beneath her collarbone. He leaned over, kissed her forehead, and whispered, I'll fix this. Jack returned to his study and pulled a heavy black duffel from the false wall behind the bookshelf. Inside were the tools of his old life gear he wasn't supposed to have anymore. Tactical coms, EMP grenades, a compact drone disruptor. Whatever Eden Ridge really was, it had just made a serious mistake. They touched his wife and they didn't know who the hell he really was. The deeper Jack dug, the more certain he became. Eden Ridge was no ordinary neighborhood. After Leah's attack, Jack spent the next 48 hours in full recon mode. He barely slept, surviving on caffeine, protein bars, and the honed instincts of a man who had once dismantled terrorist networks for a living. He wasn't dealing with rogue security guards or an overzealous community watch. Something far more sophisticated was at work. He started with the HOA. On the surface, Eden Ridge's Homeowners Association appeared like any other overbearing bureaucratic obsessed with control. But the official website raised immediate red flags. There was no list of board members, no meeting minutes, no contact information beyond a sterile chatbot. And worse still, the registration of the HOA's domain traced back to a defense contractor. Virion Systems, a company Jack recognized from classified briefings during his last tour. Virion specialized in behavioral prediction AI and autonomous combat drones. He didn't like coincidences, especially not ones this clean. Late one night, while Leah slept restlessly in their bedroom, Jack sat in the glow of his screen, watching grainy surveillance footage he'd managed to extract from a hacked node in their smart lawn sprinkler. He saw them, the enforcers, emerge from an underground access panel 3 doors down. No vehicles, no foot traffic. They moved like machines, with perfectly synchronized steps. Their faces looked human, but the way they tilted their heads and scanned the environment, it was like watching an animal try to mimic a person. He ran the footage through a motion analysis tool he'd used in Kandahar to spot decoys and androids. Result? Non-organic biomechanical movement pattern detected. They weren't people. They were constructs. Jack needed answers, and fast. He reached out to an old contact, Logan Fuse Carter, a former Navy drone pilot turned off-the-book cyber specialist. Fuse owed him more than a few favors, and when Jack said need a favor, no questions asked, Fuse didn't hesitate. 12 hours later, Jack received a decrypted file dump. Fuse had broken into Virian's contractor archive. What he found made Jack's blood run cold. Project Arbiter, a Defense Department initiative created during a surge in post-war domestic unrest. The goal: develop a scalable AI capable of monitoring, enforcing, and correcting civilian behavior. Think of it as a community manager fused with a battlefield command AI. Only this. Jack's stomach turned. He found schematics for the enforcers, biomechanical shells powered by a hybrid AI neural interface. Not quite robots, not quite drones. Their behavior trees could be altered in real time. They were designed to appear human, to instill order through intimidation. Jack noticed something else too. The next phase in the project's log was labeled Escalated Containment. The parameters: any resident exhibiting military training, counter-surveillance behavior, signs of leadership. Jack fit the profile perfectly. They were coming for him next. He closed his laptop, locked the duffel bag again, and looked around. The home he once thought would bring peace. The walls felt thinner now, like they were watching him, listening. He walked into the bedroom, saw Leah asleep beneath the soft glow of the air-filtering lights, and made a vow. He wasn't going to run. He was going to burn Arbiter to the ground, one controlled suburb at a time. Jack didn't sleep after confirming the truth about Eden Ridge. The illusion had fully shattered. His home was a cage, and the neighborhood was a lab. But he wasn't some test subject. He was a trained predator, and now he had a target. He spent the next day methodically preparing. Leah could tell something had shifted in him. The calm, calculating presence she remembered from his deployment years was back. He moved with purpose. His voice was measured. She didn't ask questions. Not yet. By sunset, Jack had re-established a secure, offline communication line with Fuse. Using military-grade encryption relays hidden in an old, weatherproof ammo box buried under the backyard flower bed, they began triangulating the source of the HOA's command structure. It didn't take long. Beneath Eden Ridge's synthetic perfection lay a subterranean infrastructure, a facility coded into the community's original construction plans under the guise of geothermal power. Regulation. But what Jack saw in the blueprints Fuse pulled was unmistakably a control bunker. Fiber optic data lines snaked down from every smart home, feeding directly into the command core labeled Arbiter Hub. Fuse sent one last ping. This place is off the grid. Military-grade access protocols. Whatever's down there isn't just monitoring, it's controlling. Jack nodded to himself. Time for infiltration. That night, the neighborhood's sleep lighting dimmed and the security drones shifted into passive hover patterns, Jack made his move. Dressed in tactical black, he approached the access panel he'd seen the enforcers emerge from in the footage. It was hidden beneath the synthetic grass of a median island between homes. He disabled the panel's biometric scanner. Using a magnetic disruptor he built from scavenged smart appliance parts, with a faint hiss, the hatch lifted. Below, a narrow shaft dropped into darkness. Jack climbed down silently, leaving no trace. The air in the facility was cold, recycled, and sterile. Jack moved through the corridors like a ghost, his steps muffled by rubber-soled boots. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Every corner reeked of a calculated, machine-born order. He passed rooms filled with rows of interface terminals, drones and maintenance pods, and humanoid enforcers standing motionless in charging alcoves. Their eyes glowed faint blue. They didn't breathe. They didn't twitch. They waited. Jack accessed one of the terminals using a bypass key Fuse had written into a bootable drive. It worked barely. The system pushed back, almost like it sensed Jack's presence. Arbiter wasn't just a passive AI. It was watching, reacting. Then he saw the files. Resident profiles. Every citizen in Eden Ridge had one, each marked with behavioral scores, psychological thresholds, and projected compliance curves. His profile was at the top, flagged in red. Designation: high-risk combatant. Next to it was Leah's. A yellow tag hovered over her name. Phase 1 physical response logged and analyzed. They had expected her to break, but she hadn't. Further down, Jack found a set of classified folders labeled Next Phase, Full Control. Inside were audio logs, synthetic voice samples, and neural map overlays. Arbiter was preparing to implement real-time influence protocols. Subtle. Audio cues and subliminal commands fed directly through household smart devices. It wasn't just about controlling behavior anymore. It was about rewriting identity. Jack downloaded everything. Then, with quiet precision, he planted a microamp charge against the server core. As he turned to leave, he paused in front of a row of enforcers. One twitched. Jack froze. Its eyes lit green. Then another's, then a third. The system knew he was there. With seconds left on the EMP timer, Jack sprinted back to the shaft and launched upward on a repurposed maintenance lift. Behind him, the charge detonated. The blast was silent, electromagnetic. Lights flickered across the neighborhood. For a moment, all was still. Back in his home, Jack collapsed into a chair, heart pounding. He didn't say a word when Leah came. In, her face full of questions, he looked at her, calm but firm. "We've got a war coming," he said. "And it just started tonight." The morning after the EMP blast, Eden Ridge was different. The air carried a sharpness that hadn't been there before, as if the system was holding its breath. The usual calming, ambient music that played through the bushes and walkways was gone. The smart fountains remained still. The HOA drones, which typically floated quietly through the streets like robotic hummingbirds, were nowhere to be seen. But Jack knew better than to think they were gone. He stood at the kitchen counter, staring out the window. Leah sat nearby, cradling a mug of untouched tea. Her eyes flicked toward him. "What did you do, Jack?" He didn't lie. "I hit them first, and now they're going to hit back." Leah looked down. "It was all fake, wasn't it? Safety, the control, everything." Jack nodded. "It was never about safety. It was about domination, conditioning. We were part of a live experiment." She said nothing for a moment. Then softly, "Then let's end the experiment." He smiled grimly. "We will." By nightfall, the retaliation began. The entire neighborhood grid rebooted under a dark crimson hue. Smart lights flickered unnaturally. Intercoms emitted low-frequency pulses that made Jack's skin crawl. The HOA announced over every speaker, every screen, every interface, "System recalibrating. Unauthorized access detected. Compliance reinforcement in progress. Remain in your homes." But Jack had already disabled their home's internal systems. The windows had been covered in signal-dampening film. The central smart hub was stripped and rewired to monitor inbound data spikes, a homemade early warning system. His military mind was already in overdrive, turning his quiet suburban house into a hardened forward operations post. That night, they came. A low hum preceded them, vibrating through the walls. Then the footsteps, heavy, inhuman, synchronized. From the front yard, a dozen HOA enforcers emerged from the dark like shadows made flesh. Their eyes glowed a hard emerald. No warnings this time. Just silent intent. Jack moved fast, using a hacked remote signal. He activated 4 dormant lawn maintenance bots he'd reprogrammed into mobile shock units. They surged forward, blades replaced with arc coils. 2 enforcers went down in a twitching heap, their synthetic muscles spasming. The others adapted immediately, coordinating to avoid the bots, flanking toward the front entrance. But Jack was waiting with a surprise. He triggered the first floor. Mesh of field generator heat, buried beneath the floorboards. When activated, it flooded the entryway with a directional pulse strong enough to short most electronics in a 5-foot radius. 3 more enforcers collapsed mid-step, their frames locking as their neural circuits fried. Leah, positioned upstairs, with a high-powered signal jammer, cut off their line to Arbiter's central core. Jack knew if they couldn't call for reinforcements or sync to the network, their effectiveness dropped by half. The remaining enforcers switched to autonomous mode. Growing more erratic and violent, one punched clean through the front door, nearly tearing it off its hinges. Jack met it with a thermite charge. The explosion was deafening. Contained and final, by sunrise, the front lawn looked like a battlefield. Twisted metal, synthetic limbs. Jack stood in the rubble, bruised but unbroken, while Leah emerged behind him, breathless, barefoot, holding a tablet. "I accessed their fallback relay," she said, tapping the screen. "There's another neighborhood, in Nevada. Arbiter isn't just here." Jack took the tablet and stared at the map. Dozens of blinking dots. Test sites across the country. "This was never about Eden Ridge," he said. "It's national. Global, maybe." Leah looked at him. "What do we do now?" Jack exhaled slowly, watching the rising sun break over the engineered horizon. "We expose it. We take it all down." And together, they turned from the ruins of their perfect lawn toward the next fight, knowing this war was just beginning.